Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing today? I'm ready. I've prepared for this. What do Europeans really think of Americans? Come on. You guys are usually so kind. Always saying, "Oh, we love Americans." Just kidding. But today I want to know what you really think. It's part 2. I've already reacted to part 1, and I'm ready to get through part 2. Even though, a lot of the times it's not exactly what I, as an American, want to hear. It's important to know how we come across on the world stage, considering sometimes, or a lot of times, we try to run the whole world. Try to. Let's do it. It's by World of Nuance. I like that name. World of Nuance. Check out their channel, link down below. Part 1 was really cool. So, let's go.
I think Norwegians and Europeans love to think that we're better, like, oh, you're from the US. Oh, I think
That's an interesting little admission right there. Interesting.
Many people feel like America is an example of one of those countries going backwards.
Oh, going backwards.
Country as a nation struggle with the same questions and things that are discussed here in Europe as well.
I don't know what other Polish people thinks, but they are quite nice, like every country.
I think there's 2 different ways to kind of interpret the question, and it's like, what do you think of America as a country, like politically, and then what do you think of Americans? And I think the answer can often be quite different.
How open they are. It's so much easier to make friends.
Somehow for me, that's a dream country, really, because we were always told in the 70s or 80s that US is a dream country.
It's really fascinating. It's kind of sad to me because growing up, I'm old enough. I mean, I wasn't alive in the 80s or 70s, but I'm still old enough to remember growing up that, like, in history class, you're kind of taught over here in America, it's like America was or at least shining light for people to immigrate to, for opportunities. And I feel like, well, that's definitely, it's all relative, but nevertheless, it's just, I don't think it's viewed that way anymore. I guess it is in some respects, like if you're an actor or a musician or in computer science, there's a lot of really well-paying jobs for computer scientists over here. And doctors. Hey, if you're a doctor, no place like the United States that would pay more for healthcare, which is great for doctors.
even though we don't want to say it, we're kind of, in a way, used to, or like, if we're watching the TV, we're looking at American shows, or we're looking at reality, or we're like, it's entertaining in a way, but we're getting impressions from the USA that we might be taking with us, that we don't know that we're doing, like.
Yeah, I think it's very, US is very like influencing Europe in many ways, like the culture and everything from Hollywood. Like we watch American shows all day.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think Norwegians and Europeans love to think that we're better, like, oh, you're from the US, oh, or not like that, but like, maybe we're thinking.
It's so interesting to hear her talk about that because obviously I get plenty of comments that have that vibe to them. There's a wide range of different people, but there's definitely a decent amount of people with that mindset, like that just seem to look down on Americans, which, depending on what country you're from and stuff, might be warranted based on what the U.S. has done there. But yeah.
We think we're thinking one step ahead. I think people would see it as chaotic, but hey, the whole world is right now, and everything that goes on with, especially I know there was a big debate about the abortion wars.
You know, I think that's actually an interesting point. It's kind of like America is a little microcosm of the whole world in some ways. Like, there's definitely a ton of division right now in America between left and right politics. And yet, as I look around at all these other countries, you know, Germany and other countries, the same thing's happening there. Which is kind of fascinating to me. The whole world, I guess it's a much more global world these days with the internet. And culture seems to kind of move together in both positive and negative ways.
For example, I think many people feel like America's example of one of those countries going backwards. But studying political science, I have learned that happens with many countries.
I wonder in what respect she means that. That's an interesting, because I don't necessarily disagree, but going backwards. I guess that can be interpreted in a couple different ways. I mean, it makes me think of Donald Trump's slogan, you know, make America great again. He wants to go backwards. Half the country wants to go back to the past, which some people interpret in different ways once again. You know, some people might say, yeah, bring us back to the time when America was, you know, viewed a lot more positively in the world and growth was a lot more substantial. Real estate wasn't totally outrageous. The American dream was more alive. Yeah, take me back. But then, you know, in a lot of other ways, you know, don't take me back to when America was more segregated and all these other issues.
Time, because they go in like waves. What political views are accepted and what are not, it changes. And with everything.
And the way she says, you know, obviously regimes over the long arc of history have always collapsed at some point. They go up, boom, at some point they collapse. So she kind of insinuated that's what she was referring to, that America might be on the way down and that a new global superpower like China might be on the way up.
Thing that goes on now, I think it's pretty hard to explain because it's kind of fluid, but can we say, like, I understand, like, it's relatable, I think, for many. You're just an example of what goes on everywhere in some way.
Poland.
American is nice, actually. I like them. And I don't know what other
That is nice to hear sometimes.
Polish people think. But they are quite nice, like every country.
What do you think about when you hear news?
I really appreciate how, like, not over the top she is. She's like, yeah, it's pretty nice.
From America these days, like, you think it's...
I don't think about them, you know, too much, but it's pretty nice.
Quite crazy or interesting, or you have no opinion on it?
I have no opinion.
Yeah. But it's not... Is it talked about much, like, in Poland? Like, when you see news or headlines, like, what's going on internationally?
In US, not. Right now, no. It's not, like, top of the top.
I think that what struck me...
I feel like maybe during, like, that last election, the U.S. was in a lot of global headlines, I'm sure, with Donald Trump and all that crap going down. But now it's actually been probably kind of fallen to the wayside. When did this video come out? 1 year ago. Yeah. Been a little boring, to be honest. Not in the rest of the world, but over here in America, it's, you know, not a whole lot. Well, there's always something going on, but, you know.
Lately about America is like that you, as a country, as a nation, you struggle with the same questions and things that are discussed here in Europe as well. I'm referring to what happened in Texas when I think it was in Texas, right?
The school shooting.
The school shooting was one thing.
I don't think that's where she was going with it.
The thing is the abortion rights.
Oh, the abortion rights, yes.
I always thought that, states...
Interesting she says Texas. I mean, that was a federal... it was the Supreme Court overturning a... whatever. But it was federal. Although states do have their own individual laws as well. And when that happened, it fell back onto the state's laws. So some states, like Texas, have particularly harsh laws.
Leading
country of freedom, right?
The country of freedom, yeah.
You do what you want.
Yeah, and it was like, it really, I was shocked that you are reverting back from what you gained at some point. I was like...
Maybe that's what the other girl was referring to, going back. That is one instance where it's like, we literally did go back.
Why? Why are you doing this? It was like you were so far away with all those cool things that I really thought that we should have in Poland, and just doing steps back.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, what it really was is if you're pro-choice, they should have ratified that into actual law, codified it, rather than it just being a precedent set by the Supreme Court that at any time these people could just overturn, and they did.
I think it's very visible, but it's maybe not typical for state. It's more these days globally that you have to be either black or white. You have to be left or right. Like there's nothing in the middle. If you have opinion, it has to be very strong opinion, one way or another. And that's a bit annoying. I mean, what's with the being in the middle and respect both left and right and that this world is just getting more and more extreme, and
I totally agree with what this guy's saying. I love it. One thing that people don't seem to recognize at all in politics anymore is that there is more than one. This is a saying in America or in English. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So it's like you might both be right on a certain issue. There's you could do it two different ways. Now, maybe one way is more efficient or better than the other, but... And then also, you can have opinions that, my opinion on this is something that's the Democrats agree with. My opinion on this is something Republicans agree with. I find myself like that all the time. And for someone like me, it's really odd. Because it seems like not very many other people think on issues like individually. It's just like, okay, I'm Republican, so therefore I think this.
Leads to more and more discussions and conflicts outside internally.
I also feel like that it's happening in Europe as well, the same trend, but not that extreme, but the whole world is getting
See, that's what I was saying.
Polarized so much. So, but I'm pretty America. I feel like the same, that they are ahead of the curve, but unfortunately I experienced happening in my country as well. But I have a lot of positive experience.
I think America, because there's so much media that comes out of America and stuff, we're kind of like the clown show on the stage, but it really represents a lot of what's happening around the world.
Experience in Americans, I really like how open they are, and it's how it's so much easier to make friends if you're completely a foreigner and you just dropped in America, and if you have to ask for directions, it's so much easier.
Interesting. I mean, one thing's for sure. If you're a foreigner, from Europe somewhere, yeah, it's going to be easy as hell to make friends over here in America. People are just going to be gravitated toward you just from your accent.
Living there, my negative feeling was about how the infrastructure and the landscape was created, because there was this amazing metropolises, which is the wonder of the world. But once you step outside, you arrive in the suburbs and they are so sterile. Yeah, like same shops in the same order in like one street.
Oh yeah,
Every
That's
city
true.
the same. And
that is so true. In fact, it's kind of eerie. Sometimes you'll drive through a different state. You'll be like, hold on, am I back in my town? Like there's always a Subway next to a Dollar General. There's weird things like that. And you'll have shopping centers where it's like this store, then this, then this. And it's like repeated in different towns around the area.
Everything is completely paved.
Copy
But
paste.
once again, when you reach the nature, it's amazing. And I love how much consideration and money goes into preserving nature in the States.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That's never something I've like even really thought to be proud of, but apparently that's a pretty cool thing. A lot of money goes into preserving the nature. We do have some really nice national parks and stuff.
You know, from Eastern Europe, because Hungary is Eastern Europe, we always had, you know, there is an American dream. And that's why maybe I have a feeling that it's easier to live in US than here in Eastern Europe. But maybe it's not true, I never checked. But I think you are more, yes.
That's a really hard question, isn't it? Easier to live in the US? I don't know. I think it's kind of like what I said before. It depends on what kind of skills you have. You know, if you're rich over here in America, or if you have a skill that is in demand over here in America, yeah, it's easy to live. I would say so. It is like you can get paid very well. And if you're paid very well, then you don't got to be worrying about, you know, you'll have great health insurance, a huge house, you know, and it'd be pretty easy. If you don't have a skill like that, then it can be really hard, especially with health insurance or like, you know, like the healthcare system, stuff like that, and really expensive education. But if you do have a kind of career that fits in well over here, yeah, it can be easy. And of course, compared to some other countries, of course, plenty of other, Western countries, it's going to be easier to live.
You have a different thinking in terms of a lot of topic, in terms of genders, in terms of, like for example, in terms of the Ukrainian war, because you have a little bit far away from that problem. We are, Ukraine, it's our neighbor, yeah. So it's not, it's right not easy. Border, yeah. So it's, so for me, US.
That's actually a really interesting thought. She's from Hungary, and it's like, I wonder if people in Hungary are like, I assume, obviously, the vast majority are pro-Ukraine in that conflict. So are they like grateful to the American military for putting so much support into it? Is that a thing?
Yes, really. I think you have more freedom and more distance from the problems than we have. But it's my impression. Of course, I really don't know. But you have sometimes crazy.
And I recognize, I'm just thinking about how I said, obviously most Hungarians are pro-Ukraine. I don't actually know. And of course there's some who are not. So I don't want to act like, paint just with that broad of a brush and not say that.
People like Trump, and now Biden. So for me, I saw sometimes Trump and I was thinking, my God, he's, for me, he's, the president of US, he is representing your country. And I said, my God, you know, he's so crazy. And after that, Biden was coming, and I said, my God, he's too old, you know. And of course,
That about sums it up.
you know, his
Now they're both too old.
speeches and so on. So yeah, you have really interesting presidents.
Yeah.
Which
Hey, if there's nothing else you can say about Trump, he sure as hell is interesting. I'm not going to be bored the next 4 years if he becomes president.
really like Obama. I know a lot of people, you know, don't like Obama, but at least Obama was, you know, my style. I mean, you know.
Obama was so much more presidential than either of them. My God, like classic. You think of like a impressive president in terms of how they hold themselves, represent themselves, speak. Obama was the last one. Or the only one in the last few that was really like that.
I don't know how old is he, but okay, let's say he's 60.
Yeah, I think he's probably in his he's close to 60 now, because he was like 40, in his 40s when he became president.
Yes, yeah. But you know, he was young, he had energy and so on. So I like that kind of president. And after that, Trump and Biden, that was a little bit, you know, interesting for me. But somehow for me, that's a dream country, really, because we were always told in the 70s or 80s that, you know, US is a dream country.
Wait, how did you hear about, like, from people who had gone, or was it just?
Yeah. I had an uncle who
That's a good point, because it's not like you're in the education system. They're saying, hey, the United States, awesome country, y'all should all move there. They're not teaching them that. So it's an interesting question. Where do you hear that from? Like other people they know who emigrated. It's kind of like sad to me. It kind of makes me happy to hear that, like a little bit of hope. But on the other side, it's kind of sad to me because I feel like we've lost that a little bit, quite a bit.
In 1956, he went to Germany, and after that he went to US, and I know that he was just working in a factory for Marlboro, and but he was living good, and you know, and in my when I was kid, everybody was telling to me that he is so lucky. He is living in US, he is working, but only he's working in a factory. And he's living good. He has time to play golf. It was impossible in Hungary, you know. and I don't know. He was chewing gum. You know, in Hungary, chewing gum was wow. in 70s. So.
Wow, that is fascinating. Weird little quirky stuff like that. Chewing gum was posh. Oh wow, that guy's got gum. And you had time to play golf. Man, it is the little things in life.
So maybe that's why really that I fear that
I would love to be chewing gum and playing golf right now.
That the life can be easier in US than here in Eastern Europe. You have a better currency as well. You have a little bit different attitude than in Hungary. In Hungary, we are not, I think we are smiling, but we are not telling too much that you are good, that was a good job. You are, I don't know, you are nice. So you are, I think, more nicer than we. So we
a little more like optimism. That used to be a phrase as well, like American optimism.
More critical.
I think that has died down too.
Towards each other or towards the kids than the people from US. So I was really I really like to work together with American people because they always give me a feedback, you know, oh, you are good, you are super, you know, they are. I know that my boss, who was Hungarian, was saying, okay, maybe it's 80%. you know. So you are more, I think, trying, you know, to motivate people, and which is, I think, in Eastern Europe, it's not usual.
Wow, that was incredible. You know, I react to quite a few videos like this. What Europeans think of Americans. Those were some excellent interviews. Some really insightful, particular little things that were really fascinating to hear. Very good, very good. Go check out their channel, World of Nuance. I loved that. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys are doing great. And you're doing a great job at your job. Whatever job you're doing for work, you're doing a bang-up job. I'll see you guys tomorrow.